Hello, viewers out there. Doing a little late afternoon Q&A here with trade ideas. If anybody can hear me, they'd like to chime in on the questions panel here. Let me know. Start firing away questions if anybody has. Going to be a stream driven for you, the viewers, you, the users. Anybody kicking the tires, interested in trade ideas, looking to learn the platform, get to know it a little better, what we are, what we do. That is what we will be running this for. Go ahead and chime in your questions. Anybody has questions on my layout, what we're scanning, why we're scanning, questions on building a scanner, building a watch list, all these questions we're here to answer here in the live Q&A. Take a look here. A very risk on kind of day, if you will, as far as our AI Holly goes. Take a look at some of these trades that are working in the late day here. ATER. So Holly gives us an alert here at 48 after the hour here, 9 a.m. Eastern. All right, there we go. There's her entry, where we're at right now. Nice little short. Strategy was topping formation. So we can see here, came up, wicked the stop, but didn't get stopped out. And it's been a slow bleed since. A little flash down here, so definitely some meat on that. Keep that risk on kind of thing going here. Take a look at what else she has today. Doing it from the long side as well. So QS, looks like she's doing a bit of bottom fishing here on the daily chart. That was breaking out long, so nice gap up. We came back, we tested the gap. All right, and she made her entry here. That looks like a 950 entry, 951 here it says. Yeah, so 2360 on the alert, 2443, nearly a buck on the risk on. I happen to like to use an 8 EMA on my charts, and so we can see we caught the 8 EMA here, and here, and here, and here, and just kept kind of pulling up. So A solid entry, and again, a risk on kind of day it looks like from our AI. Tough market, especially the last couple days, obviously. A lot of chop here, We'll bring over a SPY chart, 15 minutes. So this is yesterday. We're looking at today here. Big hard bleed all day yesterday, right up until the close. The buyers came in, a gap up. We filled the gap again. And we've kind of just been in this range again. So chop, chop, chop all day long. So, to see this set of trades doing well in and out throughout the day is, nothing short of hard work for the AI. No guarantees, nothing is perfect in scanning, and that's why I think, having these statistical weighted entries here from the AI with a trained eye watching these charts, is really where the value comes in of using that. So anybody here, you got questions, let me know. I'm going to continue to press on, go over these different alerts that we've seen come in, talk about them a little bit. Column I want to show here is our max profit column. Let's see if we can't find that max profit. So we're going to go ahead and add that. All right, and let's see, we got it right here, so we can take a look. We'll sort the data on that for the moment here. Oh, that looks like I put min profit in there. I apologize. Let's try that again. So, I'm watching the questions panel here. If someone has questions, please chime in. Please jump in. This is no pre-done content for anybody here. All right, live Q&A. So you kind of direct which way we're going with all of this. There we go. There's our max profit. Let's sort on this column. So, we could see how many trades were actually, every one of these trades were in the money today here a little bit. All right, at some point. Some obviously more than others. Some realistically, whether we could have gotten that meat, these down here, odds are probably not. The way I have this set up to show is if we were risking $100 based on the stop loss here. All right, so that's how the share size was taken, and that's why it's calculated the way you see it here in that shares column. Anybody has questions on what I'm going over, please let me know. So if we take a look around the corner here at some of these trades, we'll go with the AXTI short. Cuts like a knife was the strategy here. We can see here this is a later day trade just before 2 p.m. Eastern. All right. And so we can see made a great entry and a nice dive down on that 15-minute chart before getting a rebound here. A lot of things are index dependent, and so we can see here, we'll match this up, this 15-minute chart here with this 15-minute SPY, and we can see, where this took the dive down and took that dive down before the reverse and before the reverse. But you got a nice little wick down here, so it was a very solid. Let's see, we shorted here, so you had 15, half an hour, 45. You had an hour to get some profit, hour and 15 minutes to get some decent profit on that trade, given those risk parameters there that the AI put out for you. And bring that SPY chart back out of the way. So, pretty solid entry here, picking almost a double top, if you will. So it was a topping formation is where that, cuts like a knife, where that came from. All right, almost call it a double top in there, if we will. Take a look here at ATER again. So, at the max here, up 181. It was just a few moments ago, it looks like, when we wicked down here. But again, the price action continues to be under pressure from this top here where we almost got stopped, but yeah, I kept it going. So again, having that trader's eye in there, not always just making those exits when the AI is making those exits can make a big difference in that spread and those few pennies that can add up in the account over time. And she did it from this side too, up 95 at the peak here. And this max profit as well is only going to coincide with what it did in what we call our conservative mode, meaning before she got out on her conservative exit, which we can see right here. And that conservative exit on any OG was a profit save. So on this candle here, she saw it give it a wiggle and decided I'm not going to stick around and let's get back to the entry and give up that profit. So she exited in conservative, or risk off if you will. But if we stayed risk on through that little bit of wiggle, there's quite a bit of alpha to be had still there for a slow bleed for the rest of the day. So again, curating this with a trader's eye can make all the difference in the world here. Nothing can account for those thousands of hours of looking at charts, going over them. But when we can add some statistical probability onto our side, certainly aids in that ability to find that alpha. Again, just throwing out there, I'm still watching in the questions panel. If someone has questions, I'll continue to press on a few more of these trades here. We'll go pick at some of the bottoms, the losers, and take a look at what may have happened there, what we were seeing, what the AI was possibly seeing. So this one, kind of a tough one, I would say. Not quite as liquid as someone might like a stock to be, as we come to the last half hour of trading, only traded a little over 500,000 shares. So you got kind of a choppy chart here, and where we pick the entrance here, and just a quick move up and a bleed for the rest of the day before she gets, even in risk on mode, gets stopped out down here. So not much alpha to be had here, but for the nimble trader, on a 5 minute chart, you got 5, 10, 15 minutes to try to pick a little bit of profit out of that. So it was there, a little tougher of a trade to make there, and not the greatest daily chart to be picking from as well either here. It's a downward trend on that. Show the winners, we show the losers. So let's take a look here on this end here. GNPN, we're pushing the spring. And again, some of this is going to affect what we did with the indexes today. And so, gave a bit of a gap up and gave it up for those first 45 minutes or an hour or so, just like we did in the SPY and the Qs. You can pull up charts of those, you'd see the same thing. Same kind of thing. So sometimes those early entries, especially when we have a little bit of volatility back like we did yesterday and today again, sometimes those early entries, the second mouse gets the cheese kind of thing. You want to hang out, not jump the gun too soon on some of those, especially if you're newer into software, newer into trading itself. So heftier price stock, had taken a beat up and a gap down yesterday as it was already, and kind of bled the whole day, and we could see it really made a move at the end of the day, just like the SPY did. So one of those stocks that, if you're paying attention to these things here, you can see that odds are we were going to mirror what the indexes are doing. Very similar yesterday. That chart right here and this chart here on the SPY, open and close, open and close there. So odds are you're going to see the same thing again today, and you saw something very, very similar, the same thing again today. So again, putting that kind of puzzle together with scanning and experience watching these charts, these indexes, so on and so forth. These are the components that make up a trading plan. The best scanners on the planet, and if you don't have your trading plan, it won't really matter a whole lot in what you're doing. So, Holly had her plan, didn't work out. She took the stop, she got stopped out, she moved on for the day. Take a look at, let's see, DBI here. Bullish pullback was the strategy, and again, kind of an early day entry, about 21 minutes after the market opened, and the same kind of idea. We had that gap up, all right, and just kind of a slow bleed throughout the rest of the day. So same kind of idea, and again, similar price action to what we saw yesterday. That this one did a little bit of the opposite, where it gapped up and bled it out a lot of the day. So, and then closed it just like the SPY did yesterday. So again, when you see these stocks and there's no specific news or alpha to them, or they don't seem to have a whole lot of other catalysts, those are the trades. Let them set up a little bit more, and you might find that these early breakouts or false breakouts, which I think you're going to find most of the time they are. Whether you're scanning with us or just kind of watching on your own, the same kind of idea on these false breakouts. So again, still monitoring that questions panel. If someone has any questions, please jump in what we're doing, or you're trying to build a scan, or who trade ideas is, any of these questions. We can always take a look here around the indices too. I always think to myself after a bit of a sell-off like yesterday was, and let's not kid ourselves on a percentage basis where we are for things. Still sitting near the nosebleed seats of all-time highs. Some charts break. Some indexes, get a little tougher to follow with that, and see what weekends are shaking out, and if we have a change in trend, change in direction. So I have a sector list that I watch here, all right, and we know that uranium has been one of those things, big pop over the last few weeks. What comes up must go down. We'll come back to the mean, to the revision. We'll see how that plays out the next couple of days. I wouldn't go chasing anything in the sector, but this was a pretty big breakout from these highs back here. And we can take a look here and see that we're way, way off the all-time highs here in uranium. So, these are things to keep in mind. Take a look here. We'll continue on down. LIT, which is going to be your lithium, your battery plays. And the same kind of idea here. We're seeing much of the same stuff here with these big gap downs from yesterday. Gap up, held the gap up today. Again, we filled the gap. We came back and tested the open, all right, and kind of stuck it out for the rest of the day. So now we can see if we can't get some consolidation in the lithium plays here, and how do we play this? We want to play it in stocks. Well, we come and we find the stocks that are like that. So we have a few different ways we could do that here with the, if we wanted with the channel bar. Let's take a look here. So we're looking here in this channel bar. It's a dock channel bar, so I can have multiple layouts open at the same time. All right. And let's see, EV related. And this is how we can find some battery plays in here. All right. So LTHM, that's one that I've been watching for a long time, in and out trading, right? All right. And so we can take a look at some of these here and see how they might line up with what we're seeing here in something like LIT. Let me change around on our layouts if we want, and give us the ability to look at some different things at the same time in real time here. You got CBAT as another one. That is a China play. All right, so you got different ideas that are working in here as far as all these different EV plays. And another way to look at it, LAC, another one here, another battery company, lithium, mining, so on and so forth. And so if you don't want to just trade those indices, you can get some possible confirmation what the index is doing, and then see if anything else has got some alpha, pulling away from the pack of those ETFs, so on and so forth. A lot of it kind of just everybody's kind of corralled together, especially with what's going on the last couple of days. So just another way to look at all those kinds of items there. So we'll get rid of that. We'll come back around, start continuing. So a big bounce for the China internet stocks with the K-Web here. That's what that's looking at. So again, massive sell-off all day yesterday. Rally into the close, a gap. Come and test the open. So we're seeing the same kind of theme here and kind of a pack mentality. So as we're coming through into last part of the day, we can also see with my compare count windows, we've got pretty good size biased to the upside here on all these different caps. We're looking at these as the larger caps, over 5 billion, 4 to 5 billion here on this, 2 to 4 billion, and under 2 billion movers here as far as what we're looking at on market cap. So a good way to get a snapshot of the overall market with these compare count windows as well. And once again, bring over any of these charts for an indice. And if we were to take a look here at our heavier weighted cues with technology, I imagine you're going to see them trending this last half an hour moving up, and same thing. So moving up, and we're seeing the same kind of thing here in these. Eric, test drive will go technically live with data for anybody signed up for it a few hours after market close on October 8th. And that gives you the weekend to play around inside the software, and then you'll be ready to go with live data starting Monday morning on the 11th of October. So, have you signed up for that yet, Eric? Continue to look around here at, let's see, we're looking at silver. You know, these solid commodities, if you will, just some very, very bad looking daily charts here right now. They're just, there's nothing to this. You know, breaking the low of last year at this point after that big run up. You know, we have this huge run up here, and we're now breaking all this. As far as right now, we link directly to Interactive Brokers and E-Trade. E-Trade is out of beta now. There's one known issue with it, but it's an E-Trade issue that we're trying to fix on our end for them, more or less. But not that it's not something I'd recommend. But the issue with the E-Trade link at this moment is if you have a strategy that is a buy or sell on the open strategy, it's crashing. It's crashing E-Trade essentially. Their API just gets overwhelmed with all that data and just simply can't put it out. And so, kind of a unfortunate or bad situation. But there's nothing we can do about their API data. You know, their API was very, very broken when we got handed it to start with. We've made all the improvements that we can at our end so far. We continue to chip away at it. And as we wrap up E-Trade, I do believe we'll get some focus back going towards TD Ameritrade. Same story with them though. Their data, their API data is overwhelmed. You know, it took us a long time for us to be able to bust open into TD for them to open their API to us. And once they opened their API to us, we said, "Hey, your data's broken." And they said, "Hey, we don't care. It's your problem, not our problem." So, it's the short and skinny of what the talks were internally between us and them. So that's that. I would love it if, on a personal note, I prefer Thinkorswim to Trader Workstation with IB. Just a personal preference for me. That's all. Uh, you know, Barry, who runs the room normally, I'm trying to do this to do a little after hours or late day Q&A with everybody. I prefer Thinkorswim. Barry prefers Trader Workstation. I get why he prefers. He's been with them, so yeah, we don't have any limit to what we're trying to do or who we're trying to link with. It's a twofold issue for us. One is getting these companies to even talk to us. That's one, and then getting them to open their API because there's a lot of data exposed. There's a lot of regulations involved in these things. And then once that API is exposed to us to plug into, does it work? IB was the first ones to jump on board years and years ago, and their API is very reliable actually. We've had very, very, very few issues with them, and so that's why IB is the way we had to go. Unfortunately, for those that don't care for them, it does stink in the sense that they charge commissions and they charge for data, but their argument back is if you're a profitable trader, $20-$30 in commissions a month shouldn't matter. And if you're doing $20-$30 in commissions, worth of commissions, at 30 they start to squash some of their data fees, at least the data that we need to import from them for your positions to hold in Brokerage Plus. So Appreciate that, Eric. Yeah, there's a lot we wish we could do in other aspects. I know there's a lot of a lot of requests that we get, and some of them are beating on the same door requests. So it's not that these things aren't heard, but some of these data points are just not as easy to put into play as one might think. And as someone who was a user before working for Trade Ideas, I used to get a little bit frustrated myself with some of the requests that were being made that I know were being made by a lot of people and not having them implemented. And then once, some of the math and coding was shown to me that I don't understand a whole lot of it, it shows how difficult some of these things are to implement. So just kind of how it is. But we are actually hiring a lot of new devs and contractors to start to really pump away at some of these things. So hopefully in the making some chart improvements, hopefully those start to really bear some fruit in the next 3 to 6 months. And next thing that I think will be worked on is some new filter and alert implements and cleaning up some of what we have in there now. So that's the direction we're going. What Barry does is nothing short of magic to me. I don't, I'm not as an active trader like he is at all. I like more slower moving things. I changed things up over the last few months. I was doing longer holds. Now my short holds are a little short, but when you've got a time and sales are really whipping around and 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 15 cent spreads, and got a range in price of 20 or 30 cents over the last 2 minutes or something like that. That's not the kind of trading I do, and Barry handles that, handles a few hundred people in a room at the same time. It's pretty incredible. And then on the flip side, the same thing with Michael, his data analysis, the way he does things, how methodical he is. A lot of respect there. And as I tease the guys here that I talk with internally, stolen a little bit from every one of them with what I do. So I'm very grateful to have met them years ago, and have that knowledge imported on me, or imparted on me, excuse me, via the trading room and the webinars, long before I got, a chance to talk with them internally. So, and again, this is a live Q&A open forum here. So, I'm kind of just making up content as I go along. So please, any questions, who we are, what we are, why we're doing this, what we're scanning, when we're scanning, all those things like that. Fire these questions away, anybody. I'm gonna keep plugging along here, going through some of these indexes, and just do a little sector analysis. I think going over some charts after a day like yesterday and today is a little tougher. Now we look for a little clarity on, are we breaking a trend, or have we topped? Or are we going sideways for a little bit? Are we going to grind higher? Are we going to grind back higher again? Everybody's guess is as good as anybody's guess. So, we take it for what it's worth and look at what we see. If anything was extra beat up today, the general kind of passing of the baton has been for the last several years is you have your sectors that lead, they fall out of favor, and the sectors that were dragging behind pick up the baton and pull the market forward again. So is that what we're going to see? The next few days I think will start to give us a little clarity on that here. So sticking with China here with the FXI, so we looked at the K-Web here. That's more your Chinese internet stocks and more your large cap China plays here. And the same kind of thing. We're seeing it over and over again. We opened here, it traded down to here. It's a little bit hard to see that wick, but we traded down here on that wick. We came down, tested that opening range there, that opening 15-minute range, and we kind of just floundered sideways for the rest of the day. I think we're going to see that theme while there's a lot of people, a standoff right now between buyers and sellers. You've got anybody who is more likely than not, you got a lot of top callers all the time. You got a lot of, rippers calling all the time. And you probably got people that started to get short here and here, you know. And probably some covering that went on in this area here, as they say, don't short in the hole. Going short here would be shorting in the hole. After two gap downs in a row, shorting down here probably not your best bet. So the question now is, do we go sideways to try to pull back up again, or are we getting ready to set back up for the next down low? And so that's the standoff that we're going to see now in the next couple of days. I'll use these charts here and we'll pull up the SPY again. My only issue with the SPY is the same with the Qs. It has become so heavily weighted. The SPY is essentially, very heavy apple, very very heavy apple. But one of the things I like to do is look at the 20-day period low. That's what this black line is on this chart. And we can see since March, essentially, we've been pretty much steady steps up since March. And we just broke that step up yesterday. So when this draws the line over the next however long, that line will look like this here now, a step back down from all these steps up that we made. And, in all honesty, with the exception of this little move up and move back down in March, we can go all the way back to last year in November on this chart here, and we can see kind of, even though it's a grind, still a steady step up, that whole way through. So that 20 period has been very strong. The low in 20 days has been very strong moving forward in the overall market for quite some time now, since almost about this time last year. We continue to zoom out a little bit here, and we can see here is where it got flat for a couple of months. All right, a lot of news that was coming out in here and in here at that point, and vaccines and so on and so forth, and that's going to affect everybody's emotions. But running up into that flat period, we can come all the way back to when we started to make that big bounce of last year after the huge sell-off. And the same thing, that 20 period low, just like steps moving up, we got flat. The steps continue to move up this whole way. So like I said, this is the first time we're breaking it since we've got, like I said, a break back in here. All right, and that flat area, and a tiny break back in here, which was not really much noteworthy, to be honest, but no way to know that in real time, of course, where that was going to go. If anybody's wondering how I do this, this is a sector list, so I have what we call a top list here, pointed only at the stocks that I tell it to, which happens to be sector ETFs. So what I did was I came to our tools and symbols lists, and I created sector analysis list. And in here, I inputted all these different ones that I thought were important sectors. All right, 68 of them I currently have that I look at, I believe. 68, yes, still 68. And then, after I had created that list, I created a top list. And in that top list, I told it, we don't want any filters. I don't want anything to block any stock for any reason. So in here, not one filter is in there. I said to this list, I want you to do two things. One, I want you to look at only this sector list. So here on this drop down menu, I had the ability to select only the following lists. All right. Over here, you can find the different lists to choose from, whether you created it or we created it. All right. Over here, it'll bring it over that list when you select it. I put a check mark in that, so it's only following that list. And the other part of the scan that I told it to do is to sort everything on a change from close percent. That's it. So the change of close from yesterday, and that's how it's going to order it. We can take it a step further if we like. There's the coloring of this. So if we come into properties and we go to select colors, in here we can see this change from close here is what I've selected the colors to filter on. I happen to like the green and red scheme, green dark being well up from the close, red dark being well down from the close on percentage basis is here. That's how it runs. And that's how, very simple, 1, 2, 3. So that's the server side sort, the server side color, and then here on the display side, I have it selected on its column so you can see how this column is indented a little bit, if you will. We could change that if we want, we can change from open and it'll resort that, but then that's why you'll see the colors come out of order like that, because the server and the color sort still wants to do it by color scheme of change from close. So that's coordinating all the sorting of the scan right there. And that's how that looks like that. We'll continue down the horn a little bit here as I see there's still no questions. I know there's just a few viewers, but like I said, if anybody's there, please chime in. I like when I get the questions. So we take a look at tan here. We got our solars. We know that alternative energy is something that's being pushed for around the world. There's nothing wrong with having some of that, utilizing what we have that's coming at us naturally, whether it's wind or solar, making that technology work practical and efficient. Those are things that we're all working on still. You know, root for it. Why not? Create jobs and all those things like that. And we can see, big run up, big pull down. What comes up must come down. We come back to the mean. We come back to the medium. So, we've got a pretty significant level here, and we've held that level for a long time now. I think, possibly we get a little market cooperation. We start to grind back up again. I wouldn't be surprised to see us grind back up again. You're going to have this level right there to get through. I'm not drawing the line the greatest, but that level right there to get through. But that's what we're looking at now as far as the solar go. And of course, like anything else, you never know when a law is going to get passed and so on and so forth that give it that pop. But, we don't speculate. We look at the charts. We look at the money flow. Right now, there's not money really flowing into solars, as we can see. XIB. You got your biotechs here. Same kind of idea, a lot of these, so I don't know if any of you follow JC Perret's All-Star Charts, but he talked about how we've been in kind of a sideways bear market since March. And, looking at a lot of these ETFs, we can see that things peaked right around the beginning of March, pulled down, and it's been a grind. All right, so I bet if I swap these charts around, a lot of them, we're going to find a lot of the same stuff, and I don't need to change that drawing at all. What do you know? Tan fits that drawing just perfect, right? Let's see what else we can find. See if cloud computing fits it. Now, cloud has been a trend breaker, as we can see here, so that does not fit the crowd. So where we look for leadership, maybe we're looking at for it in the cloud services sector, all right, cloud computing. That is sitting right near its all-time highs. We got a lifetime high right here, 3157. All right, so that's what we're kind of looking at. See if we can break out of this top right there. We pulled up, but of course, the market's going to affect things overall. So is this a whoopsie breakout and we're going to come back down? We're just testing the waters for the next breakout on this. But those might be a basket of stocks you want to try to find and look for now, knowing that that sector is doing that. EM, got your emerging markets. Things are, a lot of things going on around the world. But again, peaked in March, sideways grind, moving back down on that grind. So sideways grinding bear market, if you will. Not bear market in terms of 20% down from peaks, which is the definition, but that's what we're looking at right now. Long, long grind. And again, I think we're going to find this with a lot of things. IYH, it's healthcare, I believe, right? I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Transportation. IYH, I'm sorry, is healthcare, not IYT. IYT is transportation. And so here we see we peaked actually in May before grinding down slowly. So same thing, same theme, same thing over and over again. We're not finding a lot of leadership in the ETF sectors here for moving this market higher. Gold, I don't even like to look at gold charts, but we'll look at it for fun. I believe that big spike is going to be last August, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, so last spike, I remember last August. And even I started to get bullish gold, if you will, And if for nothing else, just to trade the stocks. I could care less what gold does. Not putting gold in a vault and waiting to smelt it someday for any reason has no real sense to me, gold, but if I can trade it and make money, I certainly will. And since that, every single time that gold has tried to do anything, it has been smacked so hard, all the way through. So, gold, there's aside from breaking up above these levels at this point, there's nothing that is going to make me interested in gold whatsoever. Just a lot of false breakouts, and especially any of the gold miners recently. Energy, another story here. Again, energy's been a tough one, affected by different cyclicals, storms. There's a lot that can affect energy. Same kind of theme though. We peaked earlier in the year, and it's been a grind slowly this way. We'll see what happens over the next few coming months. Heating season starts to kick in the northern hemisphere. There's a lot more heating that has to go on in the northern hemisphere, so on and so forth. So perhaps energy sector comes back to be that leader again. Natural gas, I'm not at that chart anyways right now, but we know what the run has been in natural gas recently. That kind of trend continues, because bottom line, even with alternatives being pushed hard and people wanting to use those, they're not efficient. They're not there's no long term solution in those yet, and the bottom line is we need hydrocarbons still to run this planet. Moo. I don't think this one has much of any action. I have it in there anyways for fun. It's agriculture. I mean, make of it what you will, but 19,000 shares traded today. Well, 19.6, 19.7 thousand shares traded today, so not exactly a lot to comment on as far as that goes. Anybody that's been in the supermarket recently certainly knows the price of what agriculture is doing, whether it be your proteins or your produce. So I think we can go by that. Pharmaceuticals. Have to imagine that news with Chantix might have had an effect on some of this. And the same kind of thing, not a lot to look at in this ETF here. 2,000 shares traded. I like to put it up all the same. We got medical services and devices here. This one a bit more liquid. You got 900,000 shares traded there. Decent relative volume today. One thing we're always going to need is healthcare. Always innovating. Again, finding the quote unquote alpha stock in that. There's a trick, if you will, in that. But again, we're looking for sector leadership in the market. You know, so here we are. We're sitting up there, nosebleed seats, right off the all-time highs, lifetime highs, however you like to call it, 67 and change. And we're at the 65 range right here. So last Friday, here's Monday, here's today. So that's last Friday. Closed just about at that all-time high last Friday before we decided to sell off yesterday. REITs, REITs have been strong overall. We were talking about a lot of things peaked in March, April, May. We can see we did not peak there. We've had a slow grind up here. We'll see what happens in the next quarter as REITs unfold. XOP is going to be back to energies. This is more kind of your oil and gas services and operations. So we can see, XOP, same thing. Now we peaked way later in XOP back here in July. We've had our sell off. We're moving up again. Again, energy is not something we can ever do without. We're not just turning off grids and switching things around, or at least in the areas that they are trying to do that, it's not such great results. So, and again, I keep the stream going for a little bit longer here. If anybody's got questions though, I'm happy to go over. If someone has an idea for a scan, we can walk through some ideas, how it can't be done, or what we could work around. So that's what this is really here for. Just create some content as we go along. As we see, the market has now closed on us for the day. We sold off at the end, so the saying goes, the pros close the market. The pros closed it moving up yesterday. Pros closed it on a downside here today. Going to be interesting here the next few days. We'll see here. Was that it for a while? We'll see. Get rid of that chart. And let's take back a look here. So what were we looking at? Sorry, we were looking at the XOP. It seemed to have moved out on me. So just on another note of the XOP, we can see that it's been kind of range bound here since July. All right, that's your range. It look like we're moving towards the low of that range again. So nothing fancy. We draw lines and see what those lines mean. We got a range here. All right, range failed. Now we got a range here. All right, we couldn't make that breakout here. So we see continued weakness. We'll see what happens there. And we can even make that line extend back, as we can see. Again, not the best at drawing those freehand like that, but you get the idea that's there. IYH, there's our healthcare. So we can start to see even some of the things that we're looking at to be leaders or try to be leaders now. The last week plus, they are weak. All right. And the only one that's kind of held up there was that CLOU, that cloud computing. That's the only one that wasn't really selling off in the last week. So we ask ourselves, what does this tell us? Maybe it tells us, no trade is the trade currently, or shorter lived trades are the trade. So you're someone that things were working 2, 3, 4 day holds. Now maybe a 1 day hold or a half a day hold. That might be where the play is now in some of these. So let's see here. As we move down this list, now we can see, let's expand the list here. Get a better shot at what we've done. Open to close, green to reds. All right. Now we can start to see here the change from open columns, also a big deal, because everything below this line I'm about to draw went negative today at some point and stayed negative from the open. So that looks bearish to me, if you will. And a lot of these in the change from close, we'll draw this line here. All right, everything below here was negative from yesterday's close as well. So, some of these through here, point two, if you will, not exactly bullish. Those are flat from yesterday on the close. So, take it for what it's worth on these here. Is that where we're going to look for leadership? If not, where do we find that leadership moving in the market? So I think that'll do it on the upper end of the list. Let's take a look at the lower end of the list here. So I believe Jets was one of the few bright spots yesterday, most of the day. Yeah, so if we scroll back out a little bit for this 15-minute intraday, we can see that that was Friday's close. So we gapped down minimally, traded way down on that open 15-minute range. We moved back up and down and down, and we closed it pretty strong yesterday with Jets. So today, gapped up and it gave the whole thing back essentially, and never really came back, just a slow grind lower. So again, looking for leadership. We're finding tough to find anything here in the sector list. Industrial is a long grind up here at the top, and now starting to get pushed on and weighed on by the moving averages. So again, We'll see. There's supposedly big infrastructure coming, and it's coming, it's not coming. What's it going to do? We'll see how that plays out. But industrials begin to look weak again. And you got your home builders. Look just like the industrials there. Same kind of thing. All right. We're sitting near the top for a very long time, grinding along. And now we start to take a nosedive. Is that nosedive going to continue? Tape unfolds every day. Again, please, anybody with questions, jump out there. I'm doing a little internal support as well while you guys are kind of quiet on me here. I see a rotation of people coming in and out. I don't know if those are actually people or not. Would love to have some questions. Would love to get some interaction with anybody here. As always, something that I discuss whenever I do these live supports here. I have my liked here. This is a top list. Same thing I did with the sector list that we were going over. We come to configure. We come to Windows specific filters. There are no filters going on in here. We are sorting it change from close percent, and that's really all that's going on. And then of course, in the symbols list tab, following only this list, only the following lists. My liked personal. That's how we know it's my liked personal. That's all that this is looking at. And these are stocks that have caught my eye for one reason or another. So you look at the tape here, some green to red on a lot of these tickers. I try to update it once or twice a week basically. But it's a way for me to kind of curate so I don't have too much data coming in at once. Makes it a little easier for me to get snapshots of things that I want. I try to keep stocks that have been fairly liquid recent in there. So I know that there's some action being traded that if any of it interests me, you know, off the open, 5, 10, 15 minutes in, I look at what's at the top of this list. I start to set price alerts, at levels that interest me for possible either a pullback entry or breakout entry, so on and so forth. Nice way for me to curate that data. And I do a lot of that scanning for that at night. Some different scans. I go through those. No magic scan. Am I holding any swing positions right now? Yeah, just one. I have BCRX. I'm underwater, like 50 cents on it right now, a share. I still like overall the chart, but I'm not going to really do a whole lot else. It's a little intraday trading I've been currently doing. I'm not crazy about intraday trading anymore like I used to be, but it seems to be the kind of market we've been in for the last, for me anyways, 4 or 5 months. But BCRX, to give you my reasons why I'm in it, of course, no financial advice whatsoever here, but this line has been a magnet for quite a long time. I'm kind of trading around it. I thought last week we were going to break out right here. Where did I get it? Sorry, hold on. Da, 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 I bought on this in between day there. And then the next day I was in the money a little bit. But I saw it for a longer term hold. I thought we were going to start to break back towards this all time high. We didn't, and then Friday brought me some hope right there. Held through that yesterday. My stop is down here. That's what I'm using that 20-day low period stop for. We get there. We get there. There's nothing I can do about it. No, I don't, Diana. I don't trade the indices, but what I do is I like to look at the indices so that if there's anything that I'm looking at specifically ticker wise, what's that indice doing? Am I moving with it? Am I moving without it? If I'm trading something or I'm looking at something that is a in a certain indice, and it's moving away from that indice, or it's breaking out from that, I ask first off, I tell myself obviously it's going to have alpha compared to what that index is, and then second, how long can it defy the gravity, if you will, of that index. And so that's kind of like what I do with those. And trying to find overall market leadership. I was going over all those different sectors as to where we may or may not find the next market leaders to try to pull this market up. I mean, regardless of the sell off that we've just had in the last day and a half or whatever, we're still not that far off an all time high. We have not had a major correction in a very long time at this point. So if we were to see a 10 or 15% correction, I mean, it would be fairly normal because we haven't seen one in a long time. But all the same, I like to go through these sectors and try to find where we might find some leadership and where we might find some alpha in those. So that's more or less what I was doing. And if you weren't here for it after I went over, essentially this sector list that I've created here, I created a symbols list and I linked that list to the scan. So this scan is only going to look at that list. There's nothing to block it. These symbols will populate on here, and I decided to tell that list or tell this scan just to sort those lists on a change from close percent. That's just how I happen to like to do it. So it's color schemed to that. The server is sorting on a change from close, and my display is sorting on its change from close. And just to go over what that means. So the server sort, if we go right click and into the configure, we come to the sort tab. This is what the server is sorting on here. Okay. So I've selected change from close. All right. And then the display is here because I have it clicked on the change from close column right now. Now I could click on the change from open column, and we're going to change the display. All right, so now we have the change from open displayed, but the color scheme is still set to the change from close, and that's why you'll see interruptions in the color scheme with it not a nice gradient like it is here when I have it displayed change from close, if that all makes sense for you. So again, fire away any questions here. I got a few minutes before I kill the stream. The more active you all keep me when I don't have to leave at my normal 4:30 out time, I'll stick around and I'll talk some charts or scans or some ideas or whatever we like to trader stuff around here. I'd like to keep it more to the trade ideas side of things, but of course keep an open mind and a semi-open forum here. If there is some dead air as well for anybody watching, just on occasion I throw myself on mute some different internal chats and things that are going on. All right, sorry, I had to throw myself on mute for a moment there. Um, so NNVC, you know, you got earnings today, so I'm guessing that's what this big gap up is here. And one of those things that I look at here is it's got a lot of these gap days like this, and a lot of range and action in those days. It looks like. And I'm guessing research and physical development. I thought it was going to be more of a biotech. Let's take a look here. Let's get this out of the way. Maybe wants to cooperate. There we go. So what are we looking at here? Development stage, engineers. So yeah, drugs against viruses, so on and so forth. So you're going to be at the mercy of the FDA and CDC, or whatever governing bodies are in charge here. Obviously U.S. because it's Shelton, Connecticut. Actually, not that far from myself. And so that's what you're kind of looking at here. It's stocks like this are live by the sword, die by the sword. Like I said, I'm in BCRX, and so I'm well aware that these are the things that can gap down 50% on us in one day. I don't think it's any small coincidence. We can draw lines; they're never always exact, but you got this line here above, and we ran up towards it and started to sell off. So, unless you've got a real beat on bios, I know this doesn't say bio here. Um, they had news today. Okay, but it also looks like they had. Well, we have earnings today, right? Yeah, they had earnings this afternoon. I'm sorry. So they had news this morning, and they had earnings now. Or sometime after around now. It's 20 after the hour. So we can see there's some action that's going on there. But when you come to bios and things like this, you got to be really careful because you're going to have all these bag holders that were here, and they said to themselves that possibly some are still holding the stock, that, oh God, please let the price ever come back. And you can be sure as money can be spent, these bag holders are going to meet supply and demand just like that. Now, your question is, when is this supply exhausted and this demand outpaces that supply that's coming in? That becomes a trick. You know that trick, please keep it to yourself or sell it and bottle it for $1 million. I just let the price action play itself out. I mean, look, 100 million shares traded today. That's, it's going to be active the next few days for sure. You've got let's see, $5 right there, just under $8. You got a $3 trading range. So my thoughts on it, it'll be a great trader probably to both sides over the next 2 to 3 days, barring either some outstanding earnings that are coming in and or that news being something that's really long lived. I'm not sure what the news was. I guess we can pull up, what does IB say for news? Oh my, something with remdesivir, it looks like. Yeah, so coronavirus news with it. Pretty big deal stuff. You know what I mean? So almost double the remdesivir remain intact. Plasma. So this could be one of those stocks. We got call sweeps on it too here. So option alert. October 15th, 750 call sweeps. So there's some, I hesitate to say it, but I'll say it. Some kind of bullish news that's in there. Um, if I was to be interested in it, you know, play the psychological numbers. After hours, you're looking at 760 right here. Possibly a pullback to there, and it holds. Looks good. Because you can see after run up here, we trended higher for the rest of the day here. All right, $8 is going to be psychological. All right, you're not just going to bust through $8 with that, barring them coming out with something that really says, this plasma treatment is, the key to corona freedom. So my thoughts are some bullish news. Make of that what you will. You know, what today's bullish news is tomorrow's bearish tape. Unfortunately, buy the rumor, sell the news, all that kind of stuff. But you got a great trading range. You've got unbelievable liquidity. That's not going to go away in the next couple of days, and so I think you're going to have a nice trading range over the next few days, at the very least. With an opportunity to kind of move up to that upside if the news is as good as it looks like. That's my that's my take on that. One other thing we can look at just for fun here is, let's bring over time and sales. It looks to be fairly active in the after hours still. So we can look at the time and sales here from IB. All right, so you got some sizable lots. That's 1,500, 3,000, 300, 300 on this time and sales. So, still got pretty solid volume here in the after hours moving along. And for anybody wondering, I don't really do after hours or pre-market trading. They don't affect a whole lot of what I am doing personally, so I don't put them up on my intraday charts. But, we're here, we're talking about things, we're looking at it. So properties and show post-market, and properties and show pre-market. All right, so there we have it. And not shaded as well as I would like here. But we can see the pre-market here. That's the end of the pre-market right there, and the regular hours. So, I got to worry about a pre-market high to get through. That's your line in the sand. $8 now. Most people tell you don't use moving averages in pre and post market. I think this is liquid enough that you could put up some moving averages and make a case. So if you will, sometimes we see here when this 8 EMA dives into the 20 SMA here on the 15, and then begins to separate again. If that happens, which it's starting to, that's a bullish case that's right there. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if we claim $7 in that post market here. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm not trading it, but I wouldn't be surprised. It's made a run at it already. We can see there. So a couple minutes here before I shut down the stream, unless you guys get me active again here. Get rid of this sector list out of the way. And so let's take a look here. The things that I have been looking at recently. Well, that's quite the move today. So something I watched on Friday actually. Actually, I didn't just watch it, I traded it on Friday. We'll see what happens here. I'm going to imagine there's going to be a massive short growth that's going to start to pile into that there. And again, massive volume there. Now the volume takes a tick down, but still 84 million shares traded today. That is about as liquid as you're going to get. Take a look around the list. Something I've been watching for a while now. Overall, semiconductors, I'm bullish on. This is a newer issue here. And even given what the market's been doing, still kind of a healthy day, all things considered, yesterday. Very healthy day, obviously, today. We're looking at almost a buck and a half from yesterday's close, and trying to break out of its IPO range. So we'll see. Uh, you know, just because semiconductors, have been a market leader for a long time, doesn't mean you just, excuse me, buy any semiconductor. So this is one that I'm watching. I actually haven't traded it yet. Um, I do like that though. So we'll see what happens there. A lot of times with newer issues too, something I like to do. Not a huge VWAP person. I do like the anchored VWAP though. So on the chart here, we click the little pen or drawing utensil. We can see the different things we can do here: horizontal line, trend line, and annotation to click to add text. We can add an arrow, and here we have our anchored VWAP. So if we anchor that VWAP from its IPO, we can see that VWAP is now fighting with the 50 SMA down there. We got the 20 above the 50, and now this 8 EMA above the 20. So we start to see some moving averages fan out. Anchored VWAP is going to cross that 50 and start to make its case to cross that 20. So I kind of like this chart. Could be possibly something that I'm in the next day or two if price action continues to hold this area here. So, alright guys, not a lot of interaction here, so I'm going to call it going once, going twice, going three times. If there's anything else, throw it in there now, as I will shut down for the day. For anybody that's in here, I'm trying to do this a few days a week, kind of a new system for later day interaction. I know not everybody can make the noon Q&A, so I want to try to make myself a little more available for some later day Q&A. In the future, we might do some evening Q&As as well too, but we'll see how the popularity of this kind of gains in the next couple of weeks as I implement this. We'll just have to see. The game plan is moving forward in between 3:15 and a 3:30 start for these Q&As, Eastern time. I always give Eastern times. So that's kind of the game plan moving forward. Barry's stream will break in between probably 2:45 and 3 o'clock, kind of like normal, and then I'll pick it up, about half an hour, give or take, after that. So you're welcome, Nicole. Appreciate any interactions that I get in here, and hopefully we pick up some steam moving forward, and maybe we build a few scans together and throw some ideas around over the next few weeks and see how this goes. So, all right, everybody, you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, and thanks for stopping by.